Welcome to your favorite afternoon show. Today we unpack ADHD and its challenges with Dr. Yaseen Bismilla. On the menu, it's sesame salmon burgers and a burrito wrap. And in the house, we have South African TikTok dance sensation Chad Jones and his 4.7 million followers. On social media, we would like to know, what is one way you reboot when life feels overwhelming? Leave your comments on our social media pages and remember to use the hashtag #AfternoonExpress. But for now, over to Pale and our first guest.
Thank you so much, Ayanda. Now today, we're joined by Dr. Yaseen Bismilla, and we're hitting the reboot button on our understanding of the complexities of ADHD. Now in this conversation, we'll dive into the challenges individuals face and the support available for ADHD. Doctor, welcome to the show.
Hi, Melissa. Good to be here.
Now, Doctor, we are speaking about a very big, complex topic, but can you kind of break down just the differences between autism and ADHD? Because sometimes I find the two tend to get confused.
100%. And I'm sure you've heard people say that person is on the spectrum, or that child looks autistic, or you have ADHD because you're organizing things way too much. But it's important to know that these are two separate, different diagnoses. They are medical diagnoses, and there are certain hints that we can see in every day. So looking at autism, right? Autism is on a whole spectrum. It's actually called autism spectrum disorder. So you can have a very severe autistic human being, a child or adult, as compared to someone less obvious and less subtle. So how do you tell if someone is autistic or a bit of that? Autistic people, usually they have a lack of communication skills and they don't have social tact. So when they're in an environment and they're a little bit quiet or say the wrong thing or don't really get like social tact, that's when you can tell if someone is autistic. So now I'm looking at someone with ADHD. When looking at the word ADHD, it's how I see it. It's attention deficit. So it'll be someone who is looking for attention. Hyperactivity disorder. So a hyperactive person all over the show, scatterbrained. And that also comes with a need for impulsivity. So someone will be very impulsive and do something erratic, and you might be like, something's up there. So those are the two main differences between autism and ADHD.
Doctor, now that we've got a clear understanding and breakdown of the differences between autism and ADHD, you've got your own personal story with ADHD. I believe you've been diagnosed.
Yes, so that was a very self-awareness moment for me, you know, going through primary school, high school, struggling to focus, having to have strict regimes in place. I think it took so much on my parents to actually set goals for me, set times for me, have a structured routine. It was only until I started working as a doctor when I realized I'm actually not really coping. I'm procrastinating so much. I can't get simple goals done. And it's so weird when you understand the diagnosis out of a textbook, seeing it and experiencing it is so different. And it's why I'm so passionate about ADHD, specifically in our communities where there's so much of stress to be the best and to keep a job and to keep a household and to look after children. Life is insane, and sometimes we can't cope, and there are medical reasons for that.
How can we identify someone might be struggling and needs to see a professional when it comes to ADHD, especially in cases where maybe those signs and symptoms are subtle?
100%. So, I mean, I'm sure you've had a stressful day. I'm sure you are scatterbrained from time to time. We all have those moments. We all say, you know, we have ADHD. But what the medical diagnosis is if you've had it for over 6 months, if you're experiencing that for 6 months, that's one of the diagnostic criteria. And secondly, it has to affect your functionality. So if you are not maintaining your job, if you are not looking after your children, if you are not on the ball, that is a big red flag that this is now, you need to see a GP or you need to see a medical health practitioner, and that could be your entry point into going into a mental health situation.
You know, there are so many common misconceptions when it comes to ADHD, like you're a slow learner or you will never be a success in life. But we have got a young, proud doctor in front of us who lives with ADHD daily. So what are some of those misconceptions that we kind of need to debunk?
So the first misconception is once someone is diagnosed with ADHD, they almost, they own their diagnosis, which is not the correct way to do it. So if I sat here and was like, you know what, I have ABCDFG, this is what's wrong with me, that is the first misconception, that the disease does not overtake you. You are actually in control of it. And I think that's a very self-empowering and a very important psychological aspect to come to terms with. There's really good medication out there. And to link another difference, autism, there's no medication to cure or to really help with autism. You are born with it, it is genetic. Whereas ADHD, it's more of you're in control, and with the correct steps and treatment, it is extremely, extremely manageable and successfully manageable.
You're looking quite practically at some of those strategies and therapies that people can get involved with. What are those?
Right, so you get two types. You get your mild ADHD and you get your severe ADHD. So the mild ADHD, which is I think where I am on the spectrum, is firstly behavioral therapy. So psychology and getting more psychological help. You have to empower yourself to want to get better, understand what the problem is, why I lost my job, why am I not looking after the baby so well, for example. And that would be the main form of treatment, and medication can help with that as well. When you're severe forms, that's where medical treatment or medication is the first line of treatment there. So there you are given medication to help you focus. But you, again, have to have the mindset of, say I'm on medication now to focus on something. I can focus on something completely wrong and completely different. So I would say the first entry level is to get psychological and awareness and understand what it is to have or to be diagnosed with ADHD, and when it's too far or when it's within the normal spectrum.
Well, it seems as if there are interventions in place that people can tap into to empower themselves, and that's what it's all about. Well, Doctor, thank you so much for helping me just understand the broader aspect and idea of ADHD, but I know we do have another conversation a little later. We hope that today's discussion helps shed light on ADHD and the ways we can better support those living with it. But stay tuned, because after the break, we head into that kitchen and make delicious sesame salmon burgers. That sounds good.